Mr. Sloan is sort of a visitor. Maybe we could make him a. Oh yes, Eva.
Evie.
Ava.
Evie.
Evie. How do you spell that?
E-V-I-E-E-E-E-E.
Wow, glad I asked.
That's the way my computer spells it. Let's see, I moved down here from New England, and I already picked out my favorite bottle. Because it says St. Johnsbury, Vermont on it, and I used to live in Vermont, so this is my favorite bottle.
What? Do you collect? What do you collect mostly?
Oh, let's see. Well, I used to collect, I guess I'm just beginning bottles. Yeah, because I just bumped into a bottle man a week ago Saturday.
You bumped into a bunch of them here.
Yeah, and
What was his name?
I don't know, but he digs them up out of latrines and other places. And I was at Loudon or Lenore City, and there was on the square.
Around the corner.
Yeah, that was,
Loudon, and that's where I met him.
Little short guy. Probably Mike Marlboro.
Yeah. And I bought 2 bottles from him, so now I'm collecting bottles.
Well, good. We're glad to have you.
And I went digging because I bought a metal detector for $10 at a yard sale. And my husband and I went digging. And I have to show you what we found.
You found something already?
Look! An itty bitty bottle.
Up there.
Are you taking a picture of it?
Well, yeah, I'll take a picture. If it's on video, turn it around. Is there anything on the bottom?
Dirt. Oh, there is something.
exclusively made in Chattanooga.
It does say there is something wee little 2 5, 2/5 of a fifth.
Oh.
It does have a number on it, but it's probably a mole number. Looks like 28 or 26.
What do you think it would have been, Ron?
It's probably a little perfume.
Perfume?
That one I bet is a good one.
Come back again. Bring us something to show and tell, and if you can stump this club,
Okay.
we buy your supper.
Don't PhDs of bottles.
We have a invitee who would like to tell us a little bit about what he does. It's Ron Sloan?
Carl.
Carl Sloan. Carl, you got the floor.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh, by the way, Abby, we don't have any dues, so it doesn't cost anything. Just come.
Okay.
They'll still get you bottles.
Well, after Evie's tale, I'm not a bottle digger, but I know lots of them. I recognize all the men in this room. We thumped in bottle shows, antique ESOLs over the years. And like I said, my name is Carl Sloan, and I'm a full-time antique broker and dealer. I'm not your brick and mortar type. I do different things. Before I get into that, I want to give away a fishing hole for you all that might be of interest to you bottle diggers. I'm a Civil War nut, and I went up to, and if y'all know about this, fine, and if not, it's something that it's on what used to be the mining property, but I believe that mine is closed down. It used to be where Sarco.
Near Star.
I'm sorry.
Near Star.
Oh, near Star. Now, if you're going up towards the city and you get to road, you take a left. If you go down, some people are familiar with what they call. Well, I used to dig lots of Civil War bullets there. There's tons of them.
Oh yeah.
There. But if you go right past that, there is a little metal gate, if it's even there anymore. And if you go in there, I suggest deep fall or winter, because it's overgrown. If you go, it's about a half-mile walk. It's a little tough of a walk now. If you go up, there was a Union fort that fired on the Confederate fort across the Holston River. And after the war, and that dugout's still there. It looks just like Fort Dickerson. And it's still there. Nobody preserves it or anything.
What's the name of those forts?
I don't know.
They were running people off the property when it was, and I don't know about your star people, but the same people were working there and everything, and they were running them
get permission. I mean, it was, when I was there, the mine was closed down.
Yeah, that's why it's, now they're open back up, and they're owned by a Swedish company now. They've been running for about 2 or 3 years, and it's near Star,
Well,
and they'll probably run you off now. You could have got by with it when they were closed, but I don't know about now.
I'm gonna tell you what I found up there, and you can do with that information what you wish. And this is nothing what I came to talk about, but you've got me interested in thinking about bottles. After the Civil War, when that camp was, there was a mining camp that lived up there. I mean, if you took the berm that goes up to the fort and there's the cannon mouth, they lived right below it. And someone told me there were 25 shacks up there. And they lived there in the 30s and 40s. And you don't have to dig for bottles. They're everywhere. They're just, I mean, it's amazing. And,
How far away is that from here?
not far.
20 mile,
20, probably 20, 25 miles.
40 mile?
25,
I don't know. I mean, I could get there probably from here
30
in
minutes.
about 20 minutes or less.
The Sarco's on the other side of the road. You said turn left, didn't you?
No, if you turn left and
Okay.
you cross that iron bridge, if you
So
go
you're,
there,
you're going up the road towards you, across that big
He's
bridge.
going to the East Ridge Industrial Park.
if you were going that way, you're not going to nearly go that far. That's you'll come out on
Right,
Okay,
you know,
'cause
they
I
got
was-
it in their style.
I was going up
East
Pleasant Spot, and I was
East
trying to figure
Ridge.
out how you were going, but
You
that's,
could
I
go
know-
that way.
Yeah,
That's
okay, I
fine.
know what you're talking about now.
I said, could they connect? But if you're going, I'm just saying that's the way that I go from Fountain City. If you go, you'll see.
Yeah, y'all know what that is, don't you?
Oh, yeah,
Or
yeah.
dinosaur,
Yeah.
or dinosaur,
I do now.
turtle.
Yeah, and right past that, there used to be just a little single bar gate. And I will, if you get even permission or whatever you want to do that works out, take water with you and don't go alone, because it's a hefty little hike, because it was a fort at the top of this ridge. It winded me years and years ago, and
Well, I know when it's a circle, they weren't giving anybody permission.
Pardon me?
They wasn't giving permission.
Well, Sarco has sold it to this company, you call it
Near
what?
Star.
And maybe they're a little bit more,
I don't know, it's the same, about the same people.
Most companies are
there's
not.
there's nothing, there's no one up there. The mining offer, I mean, it might be their land, and I'm not saying trespass. I'm saying that it's just sitting there. If there's the old gravel road that goes up to a certain point, and after that, you can see where the miners lived up on that shelf. And when you get up there, there are pits. And I don't understand this, but there are pits dug, and the glasses are still in there, laying in there, bottles, jars, all kinds of stuff, old. And I looked at it, and as you go up the hill, there used to be hundreds of these blue insulators, and kids have gone up there and just smashed them by the thousands against the rock. So when you see that blue glass, you're about a third of the way. You just follow till you go to the top of the hill. But there is nothing up there, prettiest view you've ever seen.
Should
It's
we
just-
wear our camouflage clothes?
I'm not saying go up there, I'm just saying where the bottles are. Carl did that, but I just want to share that, because
we'll take it from here.
take it from there.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay. Cindy called me, it was a couple of weeks ago, and this Saturday I'm doing a roadshow type of event at Atria Assisted Living Center on Middlebrook Pike to do, because they know that I do free assessments. I'm a generalist. I've been in the business 35 years. I do this full time. I don't have another job. So I'm really crazy. You know, I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I've done other things, but I guess I started when I was a teenager at the original Powell auction with Joanne. And as a matter of fact, I'm handling her sister's estate right now, and I do estate work. And throughout the years, people, and I do appraisals, and and charge for them, not a whole lot, but I do assessments at no charge, because I like to keep the playing level fair. I don't like somebody to say, well, I just sold that. He said it was this and that. Well, you know, you can ask me. I'll tell you if I know that this is that or the other. My partner, Eric, he's a federal officer at K-25, and he's been doing this for years. He's very, very good. He specializes in coins, firearms, toys, military items. He's retired toys too, very higher end items. And when you start getting into the higher end of the spectrum of things, there's not much difference. It's easy to overlook. And I did it tonight with her necklace. I thought it was a retro costume jewelry. In fact, it's a very fine piece of bohemian crystals and yours.
No.
Oh, it's not yours. Whose was it? Oh, yeah. Miss Morgan. I'm sorry. I apologize. She'll want your necklace.
It's worth more than $1.25?
$1.25. Well, that's a fine. That's fine. But I do for the early photography, daguerreotypes, ambrotypes, early historical items, fine arts as in oil paintings, glass, textiles, architecture, and firearms. But I'm not near the level of Eric. Eric and I purchased a large firearm collection a couple of weeks ago, and I wouldn't have done it without him. It was just, it was kind of situations that I wouldn't have done it without him.
So you know John Cage?
Oh, yeah, John Cage. I've been around a lot longer than John. And John, I don't know if he's from here originally or.
He's from your area.
He must. Okay.
New England.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's really good with pottery. American art, American jugs and pottery is good. He's really done well for himself. I've worked at all sorts of auction venues, and I've done something that's very different. And I started it up at an auction in Newmarket, handling their live internet sales. And what that is, you have to have everything documented and done on the computer, and the audience at a beginning time bids against the entire world at the same time, simultaneously, and that's really interesting. I did a collection of items that belonged to Ernest Hemingway in Maryland. It was in a barn uncovered, and it was the daughter of one of his girlfriends, and long story, but it went all over the world.
Oh, yeah.
And
Were you at an Antiques Roadshow a month ago?
no, I don't do that. I've been invited to places like that. I just do my own. And I gave things to people to take because they didn't know what to take. I'd say, well, take this, they'll love it. But the thing about the Antiques Roadshow is these guys are good, and a lot of them have television shows and things like that. I like to be more local, regional. I like to help my community. And that's just me. And so this Saturday, and I think it's 2 o'clock. I apologize. I'll know tomorrow, but I believe it's 2. So we're trying to get past the lunch hour. But on Saturday at 2 until 4 or 5, I'm going to be doing free prices. You can bring it. I don't do jewelry, coins. I don't care what paintings. You can bring a picture of what you might have. But that's going to be tough because I can't handle it. I can't touch or feel it, but we can get close. Had you brought a chicken catcher, I would have gotten that one. I don't.
Have you ever worked with Joe Rawson?
Very much. I've known Joe for 30 years. Joe is Joe's a good friend, and I've worked in the States with him. Very knowledgeable. And I do an article at the Knoxville Focus once a week, and it's a free newspaper, and I do an article on antiques every week. That's actually how Atria found me. They wanted to do. But I'm going to be doing articles in other newspapers. I want to do other venues besides just one company's thing.
You should know our Mary
McNamara.
Mary McNamara. You know her? She does the States.
She said she thought she knew about
What was her husband's name?
Fred.
Fred McNamara.
A lot of people don't see me at auctions, and they don't see me in estate sales. And they say, I've heard the name, I hear this all the time, and there's a reason for that. I'm more about brokering other people's items than buying and
Well,
selling.
we know, is it John Cover?
John Cover, yeah, I worked with him for a year. I did many internet sales with him, and then went and worked at Maryville Auction. It took about 4 months to get that Hemingway item. That same
His hairstyle keeps changing.
Yeah. knowledgeable, and I've known him since the 70s.
Did you know an artist named Blackman, from Connecticut, Blackman?
I'd have to look it up I'd have to look it
I
up on
didn't know
our
if you
bid.
ever heard of him at all.
Scarf dancers. Is that what it
It's
What's
George
that?
Duncan, he did the George Duncan, color,
There's
pastels.
so many artists.
Well, my husband's aunt was a model for him. One of his
Oh,
models.
okay. Well, it would be easy for me to look up, and we'll have the computer everything there Saturday if you want to come in.
Yeah, he's a it goes in a razor blade estate up there, I forget up there. He lived at one of the, one's Gillette, there was another one. Up Connecticut, so.
Was he one of the Gillette?
I think it was. No, maybe not. It was Blackman was, he did take her hand and somebody else's back. And so, different, his wife's and composites.
It's we're in such a digital age right now that a lot of the young folks, when I do estates, and it's very sad when I go do an estate. Let me say this, when I do an estate for somebody, I never do an estate sale at the location. Because I found out the best way to broker people's things is to get them all over the world. I'll give you an example, and this is something I did buy. I bought some just bucket chairs. They were out of an office sell out of a warehouse downtown. They don't look like anything that came out of it, but they were signed Herman Miller on the bottom. And I bought those for $25 a piece. I bought 11 of them. And they're on their way to Germany for $2,200, and they didn't even want the frame, they just wanted the bucket. I don't know what they're going to repurpose.
Were you talking about the orange from Market Top?
Well, they didn't have colors. These were the elephant skin gray.
Although I'm just talking about the orange plastic top ones, the Herman Miller.
Well, they made vinyl, and then they put the it's fiberglass actually.
Fiberglass.
And a lot of people made that style, but the Herman Miller in there, that's still a business. I mean.
Well, my husband, he got some out of an apartment. I said, "Are those Herman Miller on the bottom?" I don't know, some ugly old chairs I got. They're gonna throw them away. I said, "Yeah, how much you guys are worth?"
So, but you can't get that money in Knoxville, or you have to get it somewhere else, and that's what I do.
Well, when can I bring mine to you?
Anytime. We stay covered up.
He wants to pay the Knoxville price though.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I don't like to buy. I'm more of a broker, but I mean, if I broker it, you're going to make a lot more money.
Oh, good. I'll bring my '79 Cadillac to you.
It's fine.
It's only got 49,000 on it.
It'll probably go to California or Canada. Canada's buying all of our. I don't know why. But it's good to look at things. The internet is just taking over. It just things used to be rare, and then on the internet, found like, well, they're not that rare anymore.
We're found out postcards.
Found out with postcards, but they're still whole little like postcards that are still worth $200-300, and you have to know, and you can't just be slinging them, here and there. And they're still great interest. But if you ever need me, if you all ever, I'm not strong on balls. I'm sorry. I will give you I did buy this. I bought a bottle of cognac at an auction, and it was made by a company called Otard Duclay. This cognac was made in 1850, and it was cast and then bottled in 1900 and shipped to New York, and it's never been opened. It's still good. Cognac, they've got about 40 proof, 50 proof. So I bought that, and that is going to an auction in England, getting ready to ship it by courier, and it will bring between $1,000 and $10,000.
I got a bottle of White Horse.
That's good. That stays here.
I'll let him drink.
You can't. I mean, if I can ever help anyone, that's what I like to do. Just buying and selling and making myself money. I've done that, and it's just I'm happy. It's where my head's at right now in helping people broker their estates or items. And I mean, these firearms that we have. There are so many really good auction houses right now, but it changes every day. This terrible thing that happened in Washington today, it puts firearms in a bad light again.
You said you had estate auctions. Who's the auctioneer? You or your
Well,
partner?
what I would do, Jack, is if doing it differently with Eric. We've teamed up, and he's who I want to be with. I just get along with military people better. We talk the same lingo. That I would go, people would call me, and I would do acquisitions, and I would say, okay, this auction gets this auction gets that, this auction gets that, and I would just make a commission. I would, and now if it were the proxy bid sale, it's PROXIBID. You all should write that down on that little piece of paper and look up proxy bid, because you can find bottles on there. They have 500 auctions a month. They're the largest worldwide internet auction company, period. And people don't hear about them because you have to be a licensed auctioneer to sell there, so there's not the games some of these other things play. And what I would do is set up a live auction for them. I would photograph everything, do the descriptions, get all the software up, and then everything working, and then I would be present at those sales at an auction floor and managing, you know, if it went on the internet or went to the floor. That's exciting. And go on proxy bid. I'm going to go back on proxy bid, and I've known them just about 2 years after they opened their doors. I think 2002.
You know our museum curator, Jeff Chapman?
I think I do.
McClung Museum?
I think I do.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I do.
Well, the big question is, do you know General John Hunt Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that you?
All right.
Oh, yeah.
You come back, please.
Yeah. Is that your great?
I don't know. Who knows?
What about Captain Morgan, the pirate?
Well, yeah, no doubt.
That one you're related to.
We'd like to have you back. Come back.
All right, I will. And if I can do anything, come Saturday. If you've got coins, I don't know who knows about coins. Coins you can really get hurt bad on if you don't know what you're looking at. And Eric is an expert. You can have a Morgan silver dollar if it's a Carson City at the right age. You can have a $20,000 silver dollar.
I'll bring mine.
Bring yours, and you'll go to Eric's table.
I like
Now,
$40.
I do too. They're beautiful.
If we can't come Saturday, you're doing it another time. When's the next time you'll have?
We don't know. Atria's asked to do it, but that's their only one in Tennessee there. So they have them in Louisville and other. And I'm gonna do those venues because it's good for me for people to contact me and help them with their estates, and it also keeps them from getting ripped off if they don't. So it's a win-win.
Where would you announce it at if you're gonna have another one?
That's a good question. Probably in the Sentinel, or I'm going to be doing hopefully articles in the different regional drop-off papers like the Hot Shopper. I'm going to do see if they want my articles, and that brings a lot of attention. A lot of people read those bottles.
If you run into people interested in bottles,
Oh, all the
Tell
time.
them about us.
All the time.
Tell them about
Bottles are that's a going digging for bottles is a lost art, really. Just about.
This is knoxfocus.com.
I'm
I
not,
was in the dentist's office.
yeah, people call me on that all the time, and it's I don't want to be exclusive for anything, so I may not be doing. I used to do it every week. I'm not going to do that. You know, I write an article, a 600-word article every week, 52 times a year. That's a lot.
I know Dr. Tumlin's still doing it.
Yeah, I love. I live straight over from him.
Oh, yeah?
Jim Cumberland.
Yeah, he used to be a club member until he quit driving at night. After
Great guy.
Betty died.
He's a great guy. But I'm looking at some other ventures too. If you need my help on anything, if I can't help you, I'll guide you. Don't get arrested on the hill. You never heard me. Carl said we could come up here and dig up. But it's it's a shame. No one's up there. They don't do any work up there. It's just an abandoned building. People have been up there since the 40s.
Well, I think that if you get hurt on the property, you could sue them.
you're welcome to stay. Learn about bottles.
I'm working on an auction, so.
All right. Joey, have you come back, please.
Carl, leave one of those papers.
Ed, you ready?
Well, no, I've got an item here. There was a couple out in the eating area stopped me and said they had some items for sale. So I'm going to pass this on to. I can pass it on to you. Once you read the list, if anybody
I
here
can go
has.
this way
Are they
first.
still out there?
No, they left their contact information is on here.
Okay.
You might read the list. I wouldn't give names or phone numbers, let Cindy hold on to that, I would imagine.
McGoy planters, old glass front bookcase, old chair, figurines, cherry pitter, very old, record player, 40s, World War II items, many other items. Should we just, you want to put it in
Give
the,
it to Cindy.
put it in the, should I pass it first?
I don't want
It don't matter. I don't.
Mine
nothing
is
in
for
there.
sale.
My wife's a cherry pitter at our house, and she's pretty old.
We're ready if you are, Ed.
Bring it on.
Let's do this.
Where'd that purple box go?
What I wanted to try to do is just give you an overview of what log cabin syrup did besides the tins, and of course the plastic nowadays. I didn't bring any plastic with me, although I've got some current bottles in plastic. I wanted to start out as old as I could, and these were bottles that I had immediate access to. So I'm going to start with what I think is the oldest bottle I have. I've got this bottle marked as 1890s. I'm going to go ahead and pass it around.
Handed to me.
Oh my God.
Okay, here's another one. Cindy's pirating the show. Here's another one. Same vintage in a clear glass.
That's awful lot.
Just an opinion. They're probably right around 1900 to 1910.
Okay, and that's why I numbered them.
This top tells me that it was made after the oldest soda pop bottle that I've got with this kind of a top on it is 1904.
Well, here's another one of a similar. This has basically the same kind of top.
Yeah.
Okay, let me. This is.
What was it?
This is the same kind. This is the purple. This is the infamous purple bottle that's been mentioned here already, and I've got it marked as 1900. But the problem you have with bottles of this vintage
Bottle cap like we would
is that there's nothing in advertising that I could find that would help substantiate a date. And
These are called crown top bottles, and the earliest one I've seen is like 1904.
the unique part about this particular bottle, I've got one more bottle. It's not. It's 7-sided
Yeah.
or 9-sided. I forget. Was it 9-sided? 9-sided.
9-sided.
9-sided. Yeah, all of these will say Johnsbury, Vermont, because that's where most people associate log cabin syrup with Vermont. And it's my personal belief that that's because where the packaging, and of course the best maple syrup came from. And that's pretty well globally known. Here's another bottle. This one, I don't know if this is the original top either. This was how I bought it, and I thought, I like that. It's a 20 ounce.
When we get all the way around the room, Ed, do they need to be put back on that end of the table? How
Yeah.
are we gonna do this? Okay.
Size area as on the previous bottles that were just shown. It's bottle 29. I'm not going to pass all the bottles, but I wanted to get some of the unique ones. This one here probably is going to be next in line. I think it's early, right after the right after the turn of the century.
Well, it's a small amount. What do you think? 2 ounces?
Are you talking about me or the bottle?
Both.
You're mistaking about me. The bottle, perhaps. This is a log cabin root beer.
Oh, that's right.
They would just concentrate what was in those
That's right. Yes.
to make.
And I think what prompted log cabin syrup to get into this was competition from other bottling firms that had diluted mixtures and so forth. So it was just basically competition.
Where do you see one after this one?
And this one, this particular shape looks like a soda bottle
Yeah.
or a water bottle.
Well, and let me say this too. Just because it says packed St. Johnsbury, Vermont, the the Towel Maple Products Company. Doesn't mean you just had maple syrup.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wondered. Yeah.
And that's the problem. That's another problem I have is because Towel Corporation or Towel Company packaged for other companies. So, and in fact, I'm going to fast forward here. Here's a bottle, 11¼ inch tall, 6-sided. I'm not going to pass this around. I'll just go ahead and get a quick picture of it. Same lip design. Towel maple syrup. It only has Towel Maple Syrup Company on one panel. And this is bottle 42.
This particular little bottle right here made 5 gallons of root beer, is what it made.
Yes. Yes.
Now that little concentrate.
That was short strong, wasn't it?
That was strong stuff to make 5
Another
gallons.
bottle.
Iris had one just like it, it's the same size.
Oh, really?
Iris
Is
did,
that
yeah.
another nice
Yeah,
size?
I've never had one, and then there's several other different ones that I've had. But I've never had that particular one.
Bottle 28.
So you used an eyedropper.
Put one little drop in there probably.
Probably.
Well, you probably made it pretty.
I mentioned a moment ago that the Towel
In a restaurant.
Maple Syrup Company bottle for other people. Here's a Beeman's Great Mountain Syrup.
I made 5 this time.
Yeah, that's so soft.
That's a neat label.
I did.
Is that a label on it, did you say?
I'm going to pass this one around because it's nice to see the bottle. I put just some clear plastic over it specifically for today so it can be handled. Another similar bottle to that, but you can see how the progression has gotten to the point where they were now printing on different panels rather than just one.
That bottle was purple real nice also.
Yeah, this is bottle 33,
Have you bought most of the bottles or?
11½ inch tall. A few of them I stole, but most of them I bought.
I didn't know if you was a digger like Digger Odell over here or not. Probably you remember him. Digger Odell.
I just stole this bottle out of the hands of one of our patrons here. I wanted you to see the two different label styles. The one thing about labeling back in the early 1900s, the lithography was great. They could really get a lot of detail into their printing, but they weren't terribly masterful on deciding what to print. So there was always some kind of mistakes in printing, and they didn't give a hoot back then, I suppose.
I know, it's
That last
it's
bottle.
difficult to correct an error because it was done on stones. The printing was done with stones, and you'd have to hold the stone. I'm serious. You'd
Yeah,
hold the
well,
stone to cut
each
the
stone
error.
for a different color.
Some of the printing I have, like on some of the Victorian print of the late 1800s, was just the graphics, were just hardly unduplicable. Here's another bottle from, I think the early 1900s. I got 1912, 1914 on it. It's going to be hard to see that label because it's so burnt looking, but that's actually maple syrup that's, I'm sure, is spilt on that.
Original paper label on there.
Yep.
That worked better one.
This is a bit of an unusual top. And in some cases, I'm going to pass this one as well. In some cases, the only way I can put the bottles and link them together date-wise is that last bottle had a similar top to this one. Now this top came with this bottle, but I don't know that this is original. This bottle
What do you think, Larry?
35 is 9½ inches tall. But you can see they start putting the label
If it fits, I'd
Plates
say
on
it
them.
was that.
If it fits?
I'd say that's the original top.
This is how I bought it, and you can see that the lip design is the same as the last bottle. So I linked those together date-wise. We started to get into a little different lip pattern here. Tool formed, blown in mold, I'm assuming. Pretty good sized bottle.
You know, well, he'll have more time on his hands.
Similar lip pattern to what we just
I
saw.
don't bother you also. I'm
You're not
just
bothering
checking.
us.
Okay.
You're not bothering us.
Again, panel provision.
This paper label is a.
We're good, I think.
Do you want some more water?
I'm fine, thank you.
Bottle number 5.
Well,
Again,
bottle B, that all wouldn't have
lip
that nice
design.
label on it,
Yes.
really unusual.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
I mean, it had to come out of an attic or something. That's a 100-year-old bottle with a
Impact label.
real nice label.
You don't see many full labeled bottles on the internet, for sure. Up until 1940, I could not find any advertising prints with any kind of glass bottling from Howell's log cabin syrup. However, it's from the New Yorker magazine, 1932. Happens to show a bottle. And the bottle has a top as we would know it, one that would come off with a bottle remover. But there's also a little wire removal tool on that. So this is the first bottle I could find in advertising. It's in 1932. And I could date it, even though the print didn't have a date on it, because on the back side was some recordings, and they left the recording numbers on there. And looking up at the list of music that was being released, I could substantiate June of 32, July 32, and on into later 32 from the back side of this, just because of the new releases of music. So, and that picture in the magazine was of this bottle here. It has a unique wire cap removal that when flipped up, it releases this cap off the bottle. And also, I've got this plastic over it to kind of protect the label. There's a little groove in the neck where the wire would fit into that groove. So we can date this bottle to about 1932. This in my collection here, just for today, these numbers is number 36, was just really for this meeting, so that we could come back and refer to that bottle number if need be.
It's like a specialized crown top, wouldn't you say? Yes. It's a crown top bottle with a built-in opener, which you don't see anywhere else.
I'll have some of these, I don't know if I brought another one of these bottles. I brought one a little bit different. And also, because of the tin that's being shown, I can look at the tins and also the content of maple syrup, in this case 85%, I can date that mixture because of advertising. So advertising plays a key role in dating these products.
Larry, what's a crown off bottle?
It's the like an old green Coke bottle. Okay, the cap that was on it, you know, you had to.
Yes.
That's a crown
Those
top.
little ridges in it?
Yeah, little ridges.
They use the crown, like the crown cap, which is on the bottle now. Most of them you twist off now, but back then you had
You
to.
don't know time, so go ahead, take it, ball up there and open it.
Yes.
But I think
Diane, you gotta take the ball up there and open it.
they were invented in about 1902, I think.
Came from a king's crown?
No.
That word came
No, the name of the company was Crown Bottling Works or
Was
whatever.
there an E on the end of it?
No, just Crown.
Where was Crown Bottling Company?
Upper East.
They made most of the bottle caps, you know,
Yeah.
early bottle caps.
That's what they made, was bottle caps.
They
Say
made
what
bottle
you said
caps
about
to
that
seal the bottle
particular
with.
crown cap
Before,
there.
after they had
It's
cork
kind of
on
a
it.
specialized crown top.
Because
It looks just like off of a Coca-Cola. I mean, similar, but then it's got a built-in opener so that you can take it off without having to have an opener. It's built into the bottle.
Do you
But
have
can
one of
put
those
it
bottles,
back?
Steve?
That's the first one I've ever seen.
How did you get it back on?
Did it reset?
You didn't.
Was it on there?
Well,
Yes,
how do you get-
sir.
Well, I don't know about that bottle there. I've got another bottle without the cap, and the little wire piece is rusted. In fact, rusted through on one side. I've got one of these bottles with syrup in it.
So you don't know how it got back on. Looks real good shape to be.
Well, I've never
It had to
taken
be
it off.
off.
Yeah, I'm sure that release on that bottle was gentle enough to where it didn't distort the ridges, the retention.
So you could
features.
seal it back
Yeah,
and
exactly.
open it again with the same
Exactly.
opener.
But I suspect that particular bottle style was very short-lived because of the frailty of it. And I say that as also because here's another bottle without that feature. There's no groove in the neck. The cap has serrations in it for easily taking it off, putting it back on. Same label, but different style up here. And I think that the heights are even different.
I found a cheaper way to do it.
Now that bottle that we had previous to this one, this bottle number 37, I'm listing this one as 1933 and 34 because the other bottle was 32. I have no way of knowing how long that bottle survived in use. But in order to get the conversation going, this is a 33 and 34 or thereabouts, okay? Just working on a similar bottle was this one here. I tend to think this came out a little bit later, 35 and 36. It has a twist-off cap. The bottle number here is 44. Cardboard seal.
Why do you think that's 35, 36 inch?
Because we dated the 32 bottle with advertising, and I can pick up some of these others because of the labeling style and the advertising. And to be honest with you, it's guesswork because I cannot find this bottle in any advertising, nor can I find this exact label. You can go back, here we are at 85% cane and 15% maple syrup. So this is in that same era of packaging.
How are you going to value that? If one of us comes across a bottle like that and it says $10, should we pick it up or pass it by?
If it's got the label, get it.
Pricing on these bottles.
I didn't say pricing, I said value.
Jack asked a very important question. Pricing on these bottles. What's the difference between this bottle and the purple bottle?
Age.
The lady over there wants the purple bottle. She doesn't get a hoot about this one.
Somebody,
Which one's worth more?
somebody'd rather have that later bottle than have those.
Somebody would.
So it depends
Okay.
on who
Pricing
wants
is
it,
very,
what they're willing to pay for it.
it's very subjective.
It's blind to me.
The competitors I bid against on eBay, let's say, and there's a lot of these bottles that did not come off eBay, but let's assume that a lot of them did. The people I bid against are, some of them collect log cabin syrup, some of them collect bottle size, some of them collect caps. You never know who you're going to be bidding against, and if somebody wanted this bottle cap more than I want the bottle with the label, then that's what I would be bidding against. Value-wise, I would say that most of these bottles on this table, with the exception of the bottles that up until the ones with the caps, I would say these bottles here are probably in the $50 range. Maybe 100 with 100, 150 with the labels, okay? The bottles with the caps that we're currently looking at, the pre-war and early war years, Second World War, these bottles here with labels, I would guess, except for the hexagonal cone-shaped bottles, I would say these bottles up here, $25 to $30. The cone-shaped bottles with labels, I believe some of those were in a towel log cabin museum in New England. I probably paid about 50 or 60 bucks for them years ago. So this bottle, I think, did we get this on the close-up? Bottle 34, twist-off cap, same as the last style. Now, this is about the time the Second World War broke out, and we started to see a decline in the production of food items that were in tin because the metal was being used for the war years. I suspect this bottle continued in use during the war years. I've got 46 and 7 here, but it may have been in use prior to that. But we've gone back to this serrated cap, which will continue into the 50s, as I'll show you in a moment. Got a cork seal in this one rather than cardboard. Another thing that I've linked bottles together with is the mold people, the glass people. Sometimes you can link those together. Similar bottle. You'd think it looks the same. It's different in height. This was 8.5, but you can see a little difference in height. Any of these bottles, and I haven't been able to differentiate between the 75, 76 versus the 77 bottle, a bottle with average label, let's say it's got some scuffing on it, but with a cap, probably an $8 bottle.
What about without a label?
Without a label, 5 to 8.
So if I sell them for $2, I'm doing good. That's normally what I put on when I've got them.
Yeah, $2 would be a good buy. Be a good buy. These are great window bottles. If somebody's just getting into bottle collection, now we go for different things about bottles. But if somebody doesn't know a crappy thing about bottles, and wants something to put something in the window, these are very affordable. And I've seen colors added inside, even paint inside, which or colored beans or beads, buttons, marbles. They make great display items for a container of historical significance, if you want to look at it that way, and affordable. For a window bottle, I don't think you can beat something like this, and they're really abundant. Okay?
Yeah, really, when you think about it, that was a long time ago.
Well,
76.
Even the reproductions that I collect in glass, some of that's getting to be 100 years old, and.
Well, 76 before Lisa was born, so.
So these bottles make great collector items, I think. Now, the changes we're starting to see. These are the 80s bottles, 78, 80. You still had this 1887, which was the year that Towels supposedly founded the syrup that they produced. So we saw this in production up into the 80s, and then all of a sudden it started to disappear. The early style of bottle had this decorative oval in the middle on both sides, but the problem with that was attaching a label. So this was fairly short-lived, and they went to the smooth panel for labeling. With that in mind, this is a fairly early edition of that particular style. I call it a 1959. It's bottle number 4. Well, the mold eventually found its way out of that glass house, whichever one it was. Well, about 6 years ago, I saw a mold for sale. And I couldn't tell what size bottle it produced, but I could tell it looked like a syrup bottle. I couldn't tell if it was 4.5 or 11 inches. Well, the sale was held. Clevenger Brothers up in New Jersey bought the mold, and what they would do with the molds is they would repurpose the molds into decorative window type items. Well, they sold the mold when they closed their doors in '99. They sold the mold about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Well, the gentleman who bought the mold started producing more bottles. This bottle is also from mold 3-6. So this bottle was molded in the same mold as this bottle. And this bottle I bought in 2011, but it's ruby red.
Oh, yeah.
This is a Bucket brand syrup. This was the first bottle that I bought. And there's nothing on here in reference to towels, let's say. But I bought this bottle after I discovered that it was a towel, it packaged a towel product. Here's a more current bottle that I bought that really is flawless. And when I got it, it was covered with grease, which would indicate what? Probably.
It would indicate what?
Kitchen.
Grease, a film of grease on it.
What would it indicate?
Kitchen.
Kitchen. Somebody had it in a kitchen as a display tool, and it, over the years, it collected a lot of grease. That's what this was, so it's really well protected. But I wanted you to see, I brought both these bottles in. I want you to look, if you can, at the K. This K on the bottle on the left is real wide at the top. The one on the left is rather narrow. And there's other type styles here that will differ. So, again, there were different molds for these bottles, and each bottle, even though you'd think they'd be the same, they're going to be different because the molds were different. The bucket syrup. Now, how do we know this is a towel product?
Because they told us.
I can.
Because we can look at the bucket syrup tin, and it says towels.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, it says the Pioneer Maple Products, St. Paul, Minnesota, which was home base also for towels. Now, this particular tin is called a medium size. And I didn't bring this in for tins, but I will mention this, that there's two medium sizes. There's a size A and B. There's also a smaller, this is I think 4.5. There's a 3.5 and a 7.5. The 7.5 has a bail, a wire bail. Bucket, we call it Bucket brand syrup.
That's pretty rare, isn't it?
There's one of these this size on eBay. It doesn't say towels. It's $125. And that's pretty much a going price. $100 to $150 for these tins. But the problem with buying something like this on eBay, if they don't tell you what size it is, they all look the same. You cannot look at a picture and tell what size tin it is.
Well, they usually quote you how tall it is.
Sometimes they will, but they'll put two sizes on there, and you don't know which is coming first, the size or the diameter. And it's a lot of guesswork, and what you measure this thing to be might be different than what I do. And I discovered one for sale here not long ago, and the thing was evidently pinched because they measured the narrow part, and nothing made sense. So what you read, it's an interpretation of what that seller is trying to discover. I'm going to go ahead and pass this. I just think it's a neat bucket. It's been painted inside silver. Here's a bridge card. These were free. You could write the towel company. And they had recipes inside. You can find these. They're pretty easy to find on eBay. But I wanted you to see the top. I've never seen one of these buckets with the top intact. This particular one has a spout with an early style lid on it. These are 1929, by the way. This bucket brand was about 1929. I'll go ahead and pass this. I've never seen one of these tops, and I'm not sure what I would do if I saw one. If the lady over here who wants the purple bottle, if she finds one of these bucket brands with the top like this, the purple bottle is going to be hers if she wants to trade. While I've got this open, I don't know if you can see the particular page that I just turned to. This week I bought the tag in the upper right and the lower left in a pair, and I had the one in the lower right. Those are tags that came around the 1910 era, 1906 to 1910, and they only came in a large size, with a large size tin. You could send 2 of them off for one of those little sample spoons. This is a book that I maintain. That has just miscellaneous stuff in it. You're welcome to look through here. I've got, I think, a complete collection of all the giveaway syrup booklets that they had. Some of them were shaped like little tins. Again, you can date these. Some of them have a print date in them. So I think I've got all the recipe books. That's all the recipe books.
Doesn't look like a bottle.
It isn't really. It's a jar. I said this was going to be a bottle presentation, so I thought I'd fudge just a little bit.
That's color.
Yeah, I like that.
And there are folks in this audience who know a whole lot more about this jar than I do.
Ball jar?
It is a ball jar. I've dated it 1908 simply because the label states 1905. This is the only one I've ever seen with a label. I've seen the bottles. And I've got this wrap on here. This is not, this is bottle number 3 in my collection today. Towels, mountain syrup, Great Mountain Syrup, ball jar, 1908. I'm going to pass this around because you'll probably never see one. You guys want to know what these bottles have been going for. Once I discovered that towel, Maple Products, or whatever they had the name on there as, once I discovered their relationship with the ball jar, I started looking for it. And I found 3. 5 years after I bought mine, I found one in 2007 for $117. In a year later, in 2008, $137. And in 2009, a year after that, $154. Now, these were 4 years ago, but you can see a progression each year of about $30, 20 to 30 bucks. These were without labels. So, I don't normally get into the price of bottles. I would have paid more for that simply because of its relationship to log cabin syrup.
But I mean, it's got on the back.
But the folks who are buying the jars they're fanatics. They're out of I'm out of their league. I don't want to get into a pit with them. I'm going to tap out. I'm going to tap out on that one. Anyway, I think that's about all I have. That's all I brought. I'm going to leave these books out if you guys want to look through them. These large books, this one here starts out at 1931. The one over here starts out at 1900, although the advertising in that particular loose leaf over there it's not very graphic up until about 1905 or 6, and then you start seeing things. But this is a very frail setup. If you'll just take each page and just go carefully from one to the other, you're welcome to look through here.
Larry, I have a little PS because I used to live in Vermont. My brother and I, we would tap the maple trees, we'd pound the little stout in them, and walk up in the hillsides and gather up the syrup, the sap. And we had in our kitchen, we had a black iron cook stove, and my mom would put the sap in a great big pot, and it would boil down and down and down and down and down and down, and you'd get about this much syrup.
Yeah.
And then we would go to a sugaring off party in the woods, and they would have huge vats, almost as long as this room, maybe half as long as the room, and slabs of wood, and the wood that they would burn was the outside bark of the trees. It wasn't, the trees would be cut down, but the slabs always had the bark on them because the interior part of the tree was used for lumber. So they would have all these slabs and the huge fire under these vats. and the sap would bubble and roar, and then we would take the sap and put it on top of snow and eat it, and that was called sugar and snow. And then they always served donuts and dill pickles. I think the dill pickles was to take the sweetness away. Anyway, that was before the sap. Now it all comes in a tube down the mountainside, and
Yeah.
there's a whole turnpike, an interstate map of all these tubes running down the Vermont mountainsides.
And there you have it. The lady with a lot of E's in her name have just given you a history. I was going to ask you about the syrup in the snow, because I've got pictures of kids
Yeah.
putting the syrup in the snow. And evidently, does it freeze hard like a candy?
Yeah, like taffy.
Yeah. We were afraid to eat the snow around where I live. Yeah, it's a little distasteful looking. But I have seen, in fact, I have pictures of that. I just bought a large 2-page ad, I don't know, Ladies Home Journal. It's about a 20 by 14 or something. It's huge. It's a huge centerfold. And it depicts in color people gathering syrup, boiling it down in an iron pot over an open fire, kids, what'd you call it, snow?
Sugar and snow.
Sugar in snow or sugaring snow?
I think it's sugar and snow.
Sugar and snow. It showed the kids, or a kid doing that, and as soon as I saw it, I recognized it because I have other pictures and I've read that story. But what else do you think was in the picture?
A Clydesdale horse. Oh, the bottle.
Oh, I hope not
A
a
bottle.
dog.
Oh.
All those good things.
So this
It
was
had
in
a
the
log cabin.
1950s.
It had a log cabin there because the sugar shacks, a lot of them were log. So that really began my fascination with log cabin syrup collecting. And it's a popular belief that Mr. Towle liked the shape of the cabin because of Abe Lincoln. But I honestly feel that there was a lot of competition back in the 1880s from Canada and the northern part of New England, let's say. And a lot of them featured a log cabin in their advertising and even on their tin and paper advertising. So it was not uncommon to see a log cabin related to a maple syrup product. So I'm not so certain that as shiesty as Mr. Towle was about his 100% maple syrup, I'm not so sure that his attraction and marketing was directly from Abe Lincoln, but that's the story and I kind of have to stick with it.
What would come in the wooden barrels? Because Mark's grandmother talked about going to the store, and then her daddy would go buy the barrels when they were about empty because the bottom of it would be like a little sugary, and they'd buy it and just cut it up and make candy. It would be like candy. I remember her talking about that.
When syrup was first being sold, it was sold in stores out of large containers. In this case, it was a large barrel. And I guess you ladled it out and hoped the animals hadn't gotten to it before you did. But supposedly that's how Towle got started. He was a store owner and wanted to package his syrup, which was being sold at the time, and as you can see, out of barrels. So this is some archived information from a San Francisco paper, I believe. Record-breaking shipment of Towle's log cabin syrup. 100 carloads to the west alone. 100 carloads. The train of this immense shipment just arrived from Vermont and Minnesota points for San Francisco and California points. And it lists some of the prominent buyers. The whole train load by fast freight enough to serve 5 million breakfasts tomorrow morning. Yummy. George operations in maple syrup amounted to $1 million annually. Tal Maple Products Company, now operating in the concrete block on the meadow, sent out a like amount of log cabin maple syrup and cakes to all parts of the world. The volume of his business began to appear in September 1912 when a special train in 5 sections of 25 carloads of maple products was dispatched from St. Johnsbury Works across the continent to San Francisco. Pretty passionate about log cabin syrup, only because it's a log cabin product. I didn't give a flip about the syrup, and there's no particular care for it nowadays. But their marketing reached the people who wanted that product, and it became when you were done with your log cabin tins. It's hard to find these bottles, but when you were done with your tin, who played with it? The kids. So it became a family item. It wasn't just something you had at the breakfast table. It became a toy all day long. So, and of course they were decorative and collectible. So I think Tal Maple Products in the 1800s, I suspect about 1895, is when we started seeing some of the early tins, maybe after the turn of the century is when we started seeing a lot of them, 1900, 1905. I don't think he could make them quick enough because the tin companies were hand making the tins, and the American Can Company, I think that's when they started up and they were producing the Tal log cabin syrup because they were being made by hand at that point, up until that point. Any questions?
I just wish I had the order pancakes tonight now.
Well, thanks very much.
Okay, I guess we'll move on to show and tell. You pretty well showed and told everything. Cindy, what do you bring?
This is one of my dolls out of my collection. And I thought this was the one that had my grandmother's note. Well, evidently not. Was it? Oh, yes, it is. I lay down, write the note. My grandmother, when we were at the, she'd given it to my mother, and then she said, got this doll and a bonnet doll from a woman that was in an antique shop in Ridgewood, New Jersey in 1967. Original clothes, made about 1891. It's a German Armand Marcel. And this is in my grandmother's handwriting. So, and I thought that was neat that she's been gone since 80. Today died in 96. But that was my grandmother's, one of her dolls. That fell off. Since
Larry,
it's Armand
you bring
Marcel.
anything?
I brought my collection of Blue Circle cups. Blue Circle was McDonald's before McDonald's. Blue Circle was a regional hamburger chain. They were all over Knoxville. They were in Maryville. As to the best of my knowledge, there is only one Blue Circle restaurant still in existence, and it's in Johnson City, Tennessee.
Operating?
Yeah, still operating. And the first three are all old. This one is new. It's made in China, and you can buy them on the internet today for about $9.99. But these three here are all old, and I brought these tonight hoping to get some information from somebody that might have one different than what I've got.
Was that Ronnie?
That would be me.
Did he give it to you?
Maybe. He's going to go look. Ronnie thinks that there might be one with a smaller circle here with Blue Circle.
You got more than all of us combined. Tony, what did you bring?
Not me, I'm the oldest antique I've got.
You brought Ken, didn't you?
What you gonna bring your son?
I called him today, he's getting ready for someone like
They're all going to be for sale, aren't they?
They will be.
I brought something.
He'll make them purple till then.
Amber, Pepsi Cola.
Well, I'm gonna tell you about that, Jack.
The label's not
I think that label and a label on top are on a beer bottle.
Or what?
They're on a beer bottle. On a beer bottle.
Did Pepsi-Cola put?
Pepsi did have some amber bottles, but this is a 1962 beer bottle
Is that a fantasy piece? They call it a fantasy?
with applied
Well,
label,
no, that
applied
yellow-
label that somebody had put on there.
It looks like a modern beer bottle.
Yeah, it's 1962 beer bottle.
Okay, the paper label,
Is
Worth
a
anything?
reproduction label.
really?
It's a what label?
Reproduction.
Wow.
Have you seen some?
I've seen the label.
Are they embossed?
Uh, you,
They go on the 1930 bottle is what they go on.
have you sold some?
The bottles,
Well, yes.
the labels,
Well, like this.
not like that, no.
Okay,
I
if
would-
you
I would-
did, how would you sell them?
I wouldn't be that low, let's put them on a real Pepsi bottle.
Okay.
That,
But there were amber Pepsi bottles.
they were amber Pepsi bottles around 1910. Birmingham, Memphis had two different ones. I sold an amber one from Memphis. There's one of the amber ones from Memphis that's really rare. It had Pepsi up on the shoulder, and I sold it a few years ago for $1,000.
Was it embossed or paper label up on the
Different
door?
box.
How close to actual production product does this bottle come? Does it look?
Bottle doesn't look, actual bottle does not look anything like that bottle.
Okay.
Really?
For a collection, if a person wanted to have a collection that you could talk about,
You said all the
does a
pictures.
bottle like that have any kind of a value for
You wanna go see
conversation?
Not really.
Huh?
Somebody put that on there to fool somebody, or maybe they bought it somewhere like that, and then they passed it on. I don't know where you bought it at.
Auburn, Indiana.
Oh,
How much? Your email address.
I think I paid $10
Your
for
email
it.
address?
oh, you're all right. I mean, you can't lose it on something like that. The labels are probably worth that much. The
I would
labels-
think, yeah.
But it is a reproduction label.
But don't you think, you know, we've spent a few minutes just on this one bottle, and I think the thing that I can't divorce myself from is the enjoyment that you have even discovering you screwed up. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
There's just certain things you go through in life that, oh shucks, you know?
that's where you learn though.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you learn.
And maybe if this video works out, maybe somebody else will ask
It
it.
looked pretty neat from a distance, but I could tell from here to there what it was.
It's a beer bottle.
Because, you know, over the years I probably handled it.
Well, there
Looks like it's
you
been
have
around a while.
it. If you want to know what you're buying, take Ronnie with you.
There's a 62 there's a 62 on there right
Yeah.
here. That's
That
probably
means-
the date. I mean, there's also a 35. This little 62 is probably the date. This right here, little orange glass. Who made the bottle? Eye within the little circle thing, there's a little eye.
The circle is for all.
And does it say Bush Beer on the bottom?
No, but it probably had a beer label on it. It probably did have a beer label.
Oh,
Do you think that bottle is 50 years old?
Well, it's 62, so that's 50 years old.
So it's a 50, so they were reproducing 50 years ago. It's
Wait,
nothing
no,
new,
no.
huh?
I think
label could've been done
I think
last
the label was put on there in the last so many years.
Looks like it's been down the beaten path a
Well, they
little.
take tea and stain it.
Just put it in tea or coffee, make them look old.
Double dot. Very, I guess, am I the last one for show and tell? How about anybody got anything for Stump the Club?
We done been stumped tonight on this right here, but I did not have any clue. that it
Oh,
was
that
just
shows,
a small
stuff like
can of bottle.
Billsville.
what did you get from this?
I learned that.
What did you learn?
Well, I learned that over the period of years, and there's a lot of bottles, and I've handled a lot of bottles over the years, but your early bottles, most of which I have never seen before. So mostly they did not distribute in Tennessee because they may have stayed in New England, the early bottles.
The reason I'm asking, because I don't have a clue. I collected for a narrow reason, because it's log cabin syrup. These bottles in this range right here, in the early 1900 range, I might see one of these bottles 4 to 6 months on eBay.
Right.
One bottle. And usually, and I don't have any proof, of course, of this, but if I see a picture of one of these bottles on eBay, the picture is so unrecognizable that you can't hardly tell that it's a log cabin product, except by the written description, because the photography is not that good. So it's just really a crapshoot to buy these.
Well, the chance of any of us seeing this bottle again is remote, isn't it? With
No.
that?
With that,
What's-
right there, the original cap and the label, that would be extremely rare.
Yeah,
For that to be in existence.
I've never seen that combination. Now, I mentioned I have one of these at home with the wire piece, half of it's rusted through.
There's a little number on that cap, and it tell who made the cap.
You want to give it a shot?
I looked at it through a magnifying glass while
You see, I got a magnifying glass.
and because I had never seen this, and I used to collect bottle caps as such. So
Give it a shot here.
But anyway, right here,
Let's play some fun here.
you might not have noticed this with the magnifying glass, but it says the first two numbers 26, which may indicate a date 26. This might be that early as 1926, and then it says. If I can read it. Anchor is one of the words, A-N-C-H-O-R.
Anchor Hawkins.
Company, no, it's not Anchor Hawking. But the first word I can't make out, M-A-L something. You might want to look at it through a magnifying glass to get it home with you. If you've never done, well, I can't make it out.
Well, again,
But I know it's a small 26, and that model could very well be that early.
well, again, the only indicator I have of its date is 1932 from the advertising.
But it could have been made as early as 26.
Absolutely. And the cap could have been made for R&D projects prior to that particular bottle.
Right.
What would make someone produce the wire without a cap that needed the wire, you see? Which came first, the wire or the cap?
Just it says halyard, comma, anchor, cap, New York,
The New York on it's got a hand wire.
and then patented.
So what you might be able to do is Google that name on the cap and pull up something about that particular company that made caps and when they were in business.
Well, I think
Your bottle caps that one of those crown top bottles up there were
I spell Howard.
made around
H-A-L-Y-A-R-D.
Ground Corp made most of them at that particular time. And a lot of your bottle caps, which amazed me now, I used to collect bottle caps. I never had any one that I sold for more than $20 for a single bottle cap. But a Coca-Cola cap from Johnson City or Bristol, either one, just sold on eBay this year for $300 for one bottle cap. So the same guy that owned it put a Pepsi bottle cap, unused from 1910 period, unused bottle cap on eBay. It brought $980 for one bottle cap.
Well, if it's on a Pepsi bottle, its contents
Well,
intact. Less or more?
Not necessarily more, but,
Less?
the guy probably had the bottle and it goes with it, he's not gonna put it on a bottle. But then again, if you put another one on eBay, it might not bring $30.
Not all bottle collectors collect bottle caps. Not all bottle cap collectors collect bottles. So a bottle with a cap on it would be worth something to either one, but not as much as if it were probably by itself.
Anybody been in any place that they want to tell us about in the last month?
Well, I went to Hillsville, which
You go any place, been any
I
place?
got two things to tell you though. Number one, you see Ken Cornett here tonight?
No, where is he?
Ken Cornett is more than likely in Alaska.
Wally, tell us about Chips.
Chips was a typical Chips. There was lots of people there.
Yeah, he's a cutie.
Cole,